I transmigrated. I became a newborn baby. My billionaire biological father held me in his arms, grinning from ear to ear, saying I looked exactly like him. I sighed inwardly. No kidding, my 3 older brothers were all born from my mom's affairs during her marriage. I'm the only one who's actually your biological son. Then my dad's smile vanished. The temperature around us dropped 10 degrees. He turned to the butler and said, "Investigate. Investigate, everyone." Wait, he heard that? I woke up in chaos. To be precise, I was pulled out of a warm place by a pair of large hands. Blinding light, noisy sounds, and a nurse spanking my bottom. I opened my mouth and cried. It wasn't an act, it really hurt. But my mind was clear. Memories of my past life flashed before me like a revolving lantern. My name was Zhang Lei, 32 years old, a programmer who died at my desk, with a half-finished iced Americano beside me. Cause of death? 7 consecutive days of overtime. Last words? None. Because I died too fast. Well, fine. Reincarnation it is. At least I'm alive again. I struggled to open my eyes. My vision was blurry, but I could tell the surroundings were unusual. The delivery room was large. The equipment was new, and the nurses were extremely respectful. Someone spoke. "Congratulations, Mr. Gu. It's a boy. Mother and child are both well." "Mr. Gu?" Then, a pair of strong hands took me. I was held in a man's arms. His chest was broad, the fabric of his suit pressed against my face. Smooth and delicate. Custom. I looked up. Sharp features. Highbrow bone. A jawline that could grate a carrot. He looked about 35 or 36, but impeccably maintained, exuding an air of authority. He looked down at me, his eyes full of smiles. "This child looks exactly like me." Someone immediately chimed in. Yes, Mr. Gu. Those eyes and brows are practically carved from the same mold. So alike. So alike, biological children are just different." I listened groggily to all the flattery. Suddenly, information surfaced in my mind, whether it was residual memories from his body or a newbie gift pack from heaven. Gu Yinzhou, head of the Gu Group, worth hundreds of billions. The country's richest man for 5 consecutive years. My dad is the richest man. And I also have 3 older brothers. Eldest brother, Gu Qingyuan, 22 years old. Second brother, Gu Chengze, 19. Third brother, Gu Qingxian, 16. And my mom, Su Wanning. Born into a prestigious family. Married into the Gu family for 23 years. Virtuous and virtuous. A model of high society. But one piece of information in all this made me feel terrible. The 3 brothers' DNA doesn't match at all. The eldest brother is my mom's child with her ex-boyfriend. The second brother is my mom's with the family driver. The third brother is my mom's with the former butler. Only I am Gu Yinzhou's biological child. Damn it. What kind of battlefield did I reincarnate into? Gu Yinzhou was still holding me and laughing, gently stroking my cheek with his thumb. "Little one, Dad has been waiting for you for so long." A thought involuntarily popped into my head. No wonder you've been waiting so long. The first 3 aren't yours. Only I am biological. Of course you're excited. Pure internal snark. I'm a newborn baby who can't even drink milk. Who could hear that? Then Gu Yinzhou's smile froze. His arms holding me tightened slightly. His gaze shifted from a loving father to, I can't describe it, probably the expression a CEO makes when looking at a quarterly loss report. The temperature around seemed to drop 10 degrees instantly. A few nurses shivered, thinking the air conditioning was too strong. Me? Oh, no. This reaction isn't right. I just muttered something in my head, and your expression. Wait, could he have heard it? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I thought hard again. What's 1 + 1? Gu Yinzhou looked at me expressionlessly. No reaction. False alarm. I sighed in relief. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Who can hear a baby's thoughts? This isn't a novel. Gu Yinzhou's mouth twitched. Me? Coincidence. It must be coincidence. I decided to do one final test. If you can hear me, blink 3 times. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Guyenjo's face was expressionless. I was completely relieved. Sure enough, I was overthinking it. How could this supernatural phenomenon possibly? He suddenly lowered his head, leaning close to my ear, his voice so low that only I could hear. Is twice enough? My entire body stiffened. Dim, watch your language, he said calmly. You were just born. My mind buzzed and exploded. It's over. Completely over. He really can hear me. Then everything I just said, the 3 older brothers aren't biological. My mom had an affair during her marriage, ex-boyfriend. Driver. Butler, he heard all of it. I looked at Guyenjo's current expression and had only one thought. Am I going to become an orphan right after being born? No, he said flatly. You're my biological child. The implication, as for the others, that's another story. I wanted to cry. I really wanted to cry. How long had it been since I was born? 10 minutes? And I'd already dropped a nuclear bomb on my family? Guyenjo handed me to the maternity nurse beside him, his face returning to that gentle, refined smile. But I noticed that when he turned around, his lips were almost completely straight. He walked to the door of the delivery room and said something to the butler waiting outside. His voice wasn't loud, but my ears were surprisingly sharp. Olchin, Mr. Gu. The butler immediately bowed. Look into something. Go ahead. Get a full DNA comparison done for everyone in the family. The butler paused for a second. Everyone. Everyone. Guyenjo repeated, his voice completely flat, especially the 3 older ones. This. Olchin hesitated. What about the madam? Don't let her know. Understood. The door closed. I lay in the maternity nurse's arms, my 2 little feet kicking inside the swaddling clothes. My mind was blank. Then a thought popped up. Does this count as me selling out my mom on the first day of my life? In the distance, Guyenjo, who had already reached the end of the hallway, paused in his steps. Then he kept walking. He didn't look back, but I felt like his back carried an indescribable sense of desolation, and also a hint of murderous intent. Me? Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to. No response. Only the sound of the elevator doors opening and closing at the end of the hallway. I closed my eyes and decided to get some sleep first. After all, I had just been born. This kind of melodramatic family ethics drama wasn't something a newborn should worry about. As for what happened to my mom, to be honest, it had nothing to do with me. She had given birth to 3 children who weren't her husband's and had lived comfortably as the richest man's wife for over 20 years. Being able to keep it hidden for so long meant she was no pushover. But there was one thing she hadn't accounted for. Her 4th child, the only biological one, was a traitor. A traitor who had spilled all the information the moment she was born. And it was passive. I wasn't even doing it on purpose. Who would have thought this billionaire dad could hear a baby's thoughts? It wasn't scientific. But time travel itself wasn't scientific either. Forget it. I won't think about it. Sleep first. We'll deal with it tomorrow. If there is a tomorrow. 3 days later, I lie in the small crib in the nursery, living a life like a pig, eating when I wake, sleeping after I eat. Occasionally, I let out a couple of cries, and the postpartum nanny rushes over to feed me, change my diaper, and pull me to soothe me. Honestly, the experience of being a baby isn't too bad, except for the agony of not being able to play on my phone. Everything else is pretty great. At least I don't have to work overtime anymore. Over these 3 days, Guyenjo came to see me twice. Each time, he held me and sat for a while, saying nothing, just staring at me. His gaze was complicated. There was affection, scrutiny, and something else I couldn't quite pin down, like he was waiting for something. I know what he's waiting for. He's waiting for me to keep talking. But I've learned my lesson. The lesson from my first day of life was too profound. No, I don't dare think about anything. The moment a thought pops into my head, I slam on the brakes. Can't say it. Can't say it. Can't say it every time Guyenjo comes. I loop nursery rhymes in my mind. Two tigers, two tigers, running fast, running fast once. As he listened, the corner of his mouth twitched several times. He put me down and left. I think he might believe I have an intellectual disability. But that's fine. Having an intellectual disability is better than having no filter on my mouth. I know all too well, every bit of information in my head is a bomb capable of blowing up this family. If I lose control and let something slip again. No, not slip, want to slip. That's scarier. Because you can't control yourself from thinking about something. The more you tell yourself not to think about an elephant, the more your mind fills with elephants. So I have to fill my thoughts with something else. Two tigers is my lifeline. Until the fourth day. My mother came, Sue Wanning. She wore a goose yellow silk nightgown, her hair pinned up, her face adorned with delicate, light makeup. Just 4 days after giving birth, she looked like she'd only come back from a spa. Her foundation is truly good. She walked over, bent down to look at me, and smiled warmly and lovingly. Nien, Mommy's little treasure. She reached out and pinched my cheek. Her fingertips were cool, carrying the scent of perfume. Looking at her delicate face, my first thought was, so this is the woman who was juggling 4 men at once? The moment the thought came out, I regretted it. I quickly tried to salvage it in my mind. Two tigers, running fast, but it was too late. Because out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone standing at the door. Gu Yinzhou. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, expressionless, watching from there. Damn, he heard it. The words 4 men hit him right in the heart. I saw his eyes darken. Sue Wanning, still oblivious, picked me up and rocked me. What a good baby. Not crying or fussing. She looked up and saw Gu Yinzhou, her smile softening a few degrees. Yinzhou, you're here too? Gu Yinzhou walked over. His expression normal. Just came to see him. He took me from Sue Wanning's arms. His movements natural. But I noticed a detail when he took me. His fingers didn't touch Sue Wanning. Not a single one. He deliberately avoided it. Sue Wanning seemed to sense something too. A flicker of doubt in her eyes. But it quickly faded. Has the child been named? She asked. Nianen. Gu Yinzhou said. Gu Nianen. Nianen. Sue Wanning savored it. The N for peace? The name was chosen by Gu Yinzhou, without consulting Sue Wanning. Decided directly. Though Sue Wanning smiled, I noticed the corner of her mouth tighten. With the names of the 3 older brothers, she'd had a say. Only with me. She didn't even get a voice. She felt it. But she said nothing. A smart woman. Gu Yinzhou sat on the sofa holding me, gently patting my back with one hand. I was very nervous. A song is wildly playing in my head. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are, Gu Yinzhou's hand. Patting my back. Pause for a moment. I could feel him holding back a laugh. Fine. Laugh all you want. It's not like I can do anything about it anyway. Sue Wanning sat down beside me and started talking about mundane family matters, the arrangements for the full moon banquet, who to invite, whether to make it a big affair. Gu Yinzhou listened, occasionally nodding. Oh, by the way, Sue Wanning suddenly said, Cheng Yuan said he wants to come back and see his little brother. Cheng Yu, big brother. The child of my ex-boyfriend. My mind slammed on the brakes. Don't think about it. Don't think about it, twinkle. Twinkle. Little star. Oh, but it was too late. A thought slipped out. Big brother's coming back. Does he even know his real dad is Uncle Chen next door? I swallowed the second half of that sentence. I replaced it with, starlight. Star, bright. Light up my path ahead. Oh, but the first half had already escaped. I felt Gu Yinzhou's hand stop. His entire breathing changed for a beat. Sue Wanning was still talking. Cheng Yuan is interning at the company now. Pretty busy. It's rare for him to say he wants to come back. Let him come back, Gu Yinzhou said, his voice calm. A family should get together. Sue Wanting smiled. All right, I'll tell him. She stood up and left. The moment the door closed, Gu and Zhou looked down at me. I guiltily closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. Uncle Chin next door. His voice was very soft, as if talking to himself. I didn't dare move my eyelids. I'm sleeping. I know nothing. I'm a baby. I have no thoughts, quite a lot, he said. I kept pretending. A few seconds of silence. He put me back in the crib and gently tucked in the corner of the blanket. Then he stood up, took out his phone, and dialed a number. Old Chin, add one more person. Shen Guang, the one who used to live next door. Check his relationship with my eldest son. He paused. Never mind. Don't bother checking. Just do a direct comparison. He hung up. He looked at me again. My heart was racing, not from fear. It was, how should I put it, there was no anger in this man's eyes. No hysteria. No trace of losing control. There was only an extreme calm. This calm was far more terrifying than anger. Because anger is hot. It burns out. Calm is a plan. It's a smile with a knife hidden behind it. I suddenly felt a little sorry for my mom. Just a little. After all, what she did was really over the line. The richest man in town, for over 20 years. Raising 3 illegitimate children as his own, one after another. Spending millions on education every month. And in the end, they were all someone else's kids. Anyone in his position would go crazy. But Gu Yanzhou didn't. He was waiting for solid evidence, waiting for the right moment, waiting until he had all the cards in his hand before going all in. And me, I was the ace intelligence source he accidentally stumbled upon. An intelligence source who was only 4 days old and couldn't even roll over. This life, truly, is surreal. On the day of the full moon banquet, the Gu residence was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners inside and out. Many people came. They were all notable figures from the business world, the political sphere, and a few big names in the film and television industry that I recognized from my past life memories. I was held by the nanny, wearing a custom-made little suit-style onesie. To be honest, I looked quite handsome, even though I'm now a chubby little ball of baby fat. The banquet was held in the first-floor hall. Sue Wanting wore a wine-red evening gown, dignified and proper, with a poised smile and graceful demeanor. Everything was perfectly appropriate. If I didn't know the inside story, I would have truly thought she was the perfect wealthy wife. My 3 older brothers were also there. The eldest, Gu Qingyuan, 22 years old, was sharply dressed in a suit, with a somewhat effeminate appearance, completely unlike Gu Yanzhou. Looking at him, I thought, if this were ancient times, just based on his looks, people would have suspected something, right? The second brother, Gu Chengze, 19, was short, with dark skin and small eyes. His appearance, how should I put it, like a chauffeur. Yes, exactly like a chauffeur. Because his biological father was originally a chauffeur, genetics are too honest. The third brother, Gu Qingxian, 16, looked quite spirited, with big, bright eyes. But the shape of his eyebrows was exactly the same as the former Gu family butler. I silently ranked them in my mind. The ex-boyfriend's seed, the chauffeur's seed, the butler's seed, and then me, the biological one. What kind of harem lineup is this? Is my mom the heroine of a harem novel? Men are like they cost nothing. Gu Yanzhou mingled among the crowd, wearing his standard social smile. When he passed by me, he paused and looked down at me. I quickly activated my defense mechanism. Little swallow in flowery clothes. Comes every year in spring, the corner of his mouth twitched, as if to say, childish. Then he walked away. Halfway through the banquet, an incident occurred. Gu Qingyuan walked over with a wine glass, looked at me, and wore that big brother looking at little brother smile. So this is the fourth? He reached out and pinched my cheek. He looks quite a bit like Dad. Someone nearby laughed and said, Qingyuan, you look like him too. Gu Qingyuan smiled. I take after my mom more. Take after your mom. You take after your biological father more. That Chen Guoyang, who runs a cake shop in the south of the city. I held back with all my might, not letting that sentence slip out. But a scene still flashed through my mind, a scenario I knew from the information. When Su Wanning was pregnant with the eldest brother, Chan Guoyang often visited the Gu residence under the guise of being a neighbor. When Gu Yinzhou was on business trips, he came almost every day. Later, Chan Guoyang moved away, probably afraid that too much time would expose the truth. But for 22 years, no one suspected a thing, because Gu Yinzhou trusted Su Wanning. 100% trust. Until the walking leak of secrets was born. I felt a bit conflicted inside, not out of sympathy for Su Wanning, but because Gu Yinzhou's life was too bitter. Over 20 years of marriage, all fake. 3 sons raised for over 20 years, none of them his own. He hired the best teachers for them, sent them to the most expensive schools, paved the best paths for them. They didn't even need to say thank you, because they took it for granted. I'm your son. Isn't it only natural for you to raise me? But in reality, you're not even their biological father. If this were my past life, it wouldn't even be enough for a trending topic on Jiu. It would have to make the headlines. As I was lost in these random thoughts, the banquet hall suddenly became lively. Someone shouted, "Where's the birthday star? Bring him over so everyone can see." The nanny carried me through the crowd to the center of the hall. A group of people gathered around, with various exclamations like, "Oh, so cute. His features are just like President Gu's. He'll definitely be a business elite in the future." I kept a blank expression as people took turns pinching my face. It felt like being an orange on a sample stand at a supermarket. Everyone had to squeeze it. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the crowd. "Yinzhou, congratulations." The crowd parted automatically. A middle-aged man walked in, big belly, bald, gold-rimmed glasses. His face slick with a greasy smile. I looked at him, and information popped up in my mind automatically. Su Jiangwo, Gu Yinzhou's business partner. In real estate, another identity, the husband of Su Wanning's college best friend. There was nothing improper between him and Su Wanning. But he knew some things. What things? He knew who Gu Qingyuan's biological father was, because before Chen Guoyang moved away, he bragged at a drinking party, and Su Jiangwo overheard him. Chen Guoyang said, "I slept with the richest man's wife and gave him a big, fat son, and he's still in the dark." Su Jiangwo was startled at the time, but kept quiet. Why didn't he speak up? Because he used it as leverage. For 20 years, he played the friend in front of Gu Yinzhou while using the secret to extract favors from Su Wanning, project priority, low-interest loan guarantees, development rights for that piece of land in the city center. Su Wanning didn't dare refuse, because she was afraid he'd spill it. That's high society. Every smile hide the knife. I looked at Su Jiangwo's smiling face, and only one thought crossed my mind. How does this bald bastard have the nerve to show up? He's been leeching off my mom's secret for 20 years. As soon as the thought left, I knew I'd messed up. I quickly switched channels. Only mom is good in the world. A child with a mom is like a treasure, but Gu Yinzhou was standing right next to me, within a meter. His fingers were gently swirling his wine glass, the motion uninterrupted. His smile hadn't changed, but I saw his eyes, like a layer of ice had formed. Su Jiangwo walked over and patted Gu Yinzhou on the shoulder. "Your 4th son, Yinzhou. You're building a soccer team." "Ah." Gu Yinzhou smiled and clinked glasses with him. "You're joking. Brother Jiangwo. Come on, have a drink." They clinked glasses. Su Jiangwo downed his in one gulp. Gu Yinzhou only wet his lips. Then he turned to the butler and said something in a low voice. "Tomorrow, set up a time to pull out the contract for that piece of land under Su Jiangwo's name." The butler nodded. Didn't ask why. Su Jiangwo was still there, buddying up with others, completely unaware that the blade above his head was already poised. I lay in the nanny's arms, watching it all. Only one feeling inside. My dad is truly ruthless. The kind of ruthless that doesn't show. At a 1-month celebration, He's here drinking, smiling, making small talk. Meanwhile, his mind is already plotting. First, check the DNA to confirm the true bloodline of his 3 sons. Then, trace the line to find out everyone in the know. And then what? I don't know. But I know one thing. Guyan Zhou isn't the type to let things slide. He waited over 20 years. No, he didn't wait over 20 years. He was kept in the dark for over 20 years. This level of betrayal in business is like a partner stealing the company, taking the assets, and making you applaud them, killing the soul. And Su Wanting not only pulled it off, but did it flawlessly. Until I showed up. A bug. A system glitch. An information leak that shouldn't exist. I think I should give myself a nickname. Call me the walking bug. No, walking doesn't even fit. I can't even crawl. At best, call me the lying down bug. After the 1-month celebration ended, the guests left. I was carried back to the nursery. The nanny fed me, burped me, and put me in the crib. Just as she was about to turn off the light, the door pushed open. Guyan Zhou walked in. He had changed into casual clothes, his shirt unbuttoned at the top 2 buttons, looking much more relaxed. But I knew he wasn't relaxed. He sat down across from the nanny and said to her, "You go out first. I'll stay with him for a while." The nanny left. The door closed. Only the 2 of us, father and son, remained in the room. He looked at me. I looked at him. It was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "I know you can think, and I know you can't help it." I didn't say a word. "No kidding, I can't talk anyway." "You don't have to deliberately hum," he said. "It's too fake. A 1-month-old baby singing. Little swallow in colorful clothes. Any normal person would find it creepy." Me? Fine. I'm exposed. He leaned back in his chair, hands crossed over his stomach. "I don't know why you have this information. I don't know if you're a normal child." He paused. "But those things you told me, I'm already looking into them." My heart tightened. "The DNA comparison results will be out the day after tomorrow." The day after tomorrow? That fast? When it comes to the Gu family, nothing is slow. He said flatly, "Fine. Money talks." He stood up, walked over to the crib, and looked down at me. "If the results are as you said," he didn't finish the sentence. But his eyes told me everything. It was an extreme, suppressed, destructive silence. The kind of silence before a storm. I swallowed. Well, the saliva flowed automatically. Babies can't control that. But the tension was real. He looked at me for a while longer, then reached out and gently tapped my forehead. "Go to sleep." Then he turned off the light and walked out. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. The day after tomorrow. The day after tomorrow is Judgment Day. If the DNA results come out confirming that none of the 3 older brothers are Gu Yinzhou's biological children, then what happens next? I don't know. But one thing I'm sure of, my mother, Su Wanting, the perfect life she spent over 20 years carefully building, is about to collapse like a house of cards. And the one who knocked over the first card is a baby who can't even hold a bottle steady. That's me, Gu Yinan, 30 days old. Achievement. Betrayed my mother once. The day the DNA results came out was a Wednesday. At 2 in the afternoon, the sunlight was perfect. I had just woken up from my nap, and the nanny was changing my diaper. When Guyan Zhou walked in, he was holding a craft paper envelope. His expression was calm. Too calm. Calm to an abnormal degree. He asked the nanny to leave, then sat down on the chair next to the crib. He opened the envelope. Inside were several sheets of paper. He read them one by one. No change in expression. After reading, he put the papers back into the envelope, set it on the table, and then looked at me. Silence. A full 2 minutes of silence. I didn't dare think about anything. I didn't even dare hum a nursery rhyme. I just lay there quietly, looking at him. Finally, he spoke. His voice was very soft. 3, and not a single one is. 6 words. Each word felt like it had been pulled out of an ice cellar. After he said it, he let out a laugh. That smile, I had never seen it before. It wasn't mockery, anger, or sadness. It was a complete, utter absurdity welling up from the depths of his bones, like the smile of someone who suddenly realizes that more than 20 years of their life have been a lie. It was the emptiness after deconstructing all meaning. He tilted his head back to look at the ceiling, tapping his fingers lightly on his knee twice. Then his hand stopped. He stood up, put the envelope into the inner pocket of his suit, walked to the door. Stop. Nien. He called out without turning his head. Of course. I couldn't respond. Thank you. Then he left. The door closed softly. I heard him making a phone call in the hallway. His voice very low. But my ears are sharp. Old Chin. Notify the legal department. I need a complete asset isolation plan. Yes. Freeze and review all trusts, insurance policies, and equity allocations tied to the identities of the eldest, second, and third sons of the Gu family. No, don't move yet. Wait for my word. Also, check Su Wanning's assets. Figure out which are premarital and which are marital. Keep an eye on Su Zhengwo's matter. His voice gradually faded away. I lay in bed, staring at the spinning little airplane wind chime on the ceiling. It turned slowly, very quietly, but I knew the storm in this house had already arrived. It's just that no one else has heard the wind yet, except for me and Gu Yanzhou. I took a deep breath. Well, a baby's deep breath is just inhaling half a breath more than usual, and closed my eyes. A thought popped into my mind. Dad, when are you planning to make your move? There was no response. He was already far away, but I knew the answer. Soon, very soon. The following week, the Gu family appeared calm on the surface. Su Wanning came to see me once a day, hugging me, kissing me, and saying things like, "What a good baby." Gu Qingyuan came back once, stayed at home for 2 days, and reported to Gu Yanzhou about his internship at the company. Gu Yanzhou listened, smiled, nodded, and said, "Go, keep it up." His tone was as gentle as if nothing had happened. I watched from the side, and only one word came to mind. Brilliant. This acting could win an Oscar in Hollywood. When Gu Qingyuan left, he even came to the nursery to see me. Little four. Big brother is leaving now. I'll come see you next time. He reached out and poked my cheek. I looked at his face, which didn't resemble Gu Yanzhou's at all. I held back. I didn't think about anything. My mental defenses were solid now. Whenever a member of the Gu family was near me, my brain automatically switched to slacker mode, thinking about nothing, caring about nothing, focusing entirely on being a baby who only eats, drinks, and eliminates. Until that night, it was probably the 10th day after my full month. Late at night, I woke up. The nanny was sleeping in the next room, and I was alone in the nursery. It was very quiet, but I could hear sounds from downstairs. Very faint, very distant, but definitely there. It was the sound of an argument. More precisely, one person was questioning, and another was explaining. I pricked up my ears. Well, a baby can't really do that, but I tried to focus. Gu Yanzhou's voice. This necklace. Who gave it to you? Su Wanning's voice. What necklace? Which one? The one in the second drawer of your vanity. Cartier. Limited edition. With an engraving. Brief silence. That. I bought it myself. The receipt shows it was purchased on March 14, 2002. White Day. Another silence. The buyer wasn't you. It was Chen Guoyang. A long silence. I could imagine the scene downstairs, Su Wanning's expression shifting from calm to stiff, from stiff to pale. But she was a woman who had navigated high society for over 20 years. Yanzhou, let me explain. That was a long time ago. Before we were married, 2002. Qingyuan was 1 year old. Su Wanning's voice cut off. That one sentence blocked all escape routes. 2002. They had already been married for 3 years. Gu Qingyuan was already 1 year old. If the necklace was bought before marriage, the timeline didn't match. If it was after marriage, that was even more interesting. A married man giving a necklace to another man's wife on White Day, and with an engraving. What did it say? I didn't know. But it definitely wasn't long-lived friendship. Downstairs was silent for a long time. Then Sue Wanning's voice came, with a hint of trembling. Injo, what exactly are you trying to say? I'm not trying to say anything. Gu Injo's voice was as calm as water. Just asking, are you investigating me? Investigating? He let out a laugh. What'd I investigate you for? What is there to investigate? I Wanning. Don't overthink it. He said, go to sleep. It's late. Footsteps. The sound of going upstairs. Then everything fell silent. I lay in the darkness. My heart was beating a little fast. Gu Injo was testing. He was slowly tightening the net. Not the kind of directly revealing evidence and confronting approach. He was slowly, bit by bit, making Sue Wanning uneasy, letting her realize he might know something, making her lose her composure, making her make mistakes, and then reaping the harvest. This man, more terrifying than I had imagined, and more patient. The next morning, when Sue Wanning came to see me, I noticed dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept well. When she held me, her fingers unconsciously tightened a little. Absent-minded. Baby. She looked down at me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something, but held back. In the end, she just kissed my forehead and put me back on the bed. As she left, she glanced back, and that glance was fear. Deep, deep fear that had been buried in her heart for over 20 years. She was afraid. She was beginning to be afraid. But she didn't yet know the truly terrifying thing had not yet begun. 3 more days passed. An unexpected visitor arrived. At 3 in the afternoon, the butler announced, Madam, a Mr. Chin is here to see you. He says he's an old friend. I was sunbathing in the baby rocker in the living room. Sue Wanning was on the sofa, sipping tea and flipping through a magazine. When she heard the name Mr. Chin, her hand flipping the magazine stopped. Which Mr. Chin? He says his name is Chen Guoyo. The cup slipped from Sue Wanning's hand. Tea spilled onto the white cashmere blanket, spreading into a large stain. She immediately stood up, her face pale. Tell him I'm not here. But, madam, the butler hesitated. Mr. Gu asked him to come. Mr. Gu said an old friend is here, and you should entertain him. Sue Wanning's face turned from pale to ashen. That kind of ashen, the color of all blood being drained in an instant. She stood there, motionless, for a full 3 seconds. Then she took a deep breath, forced a smile, and said, Let him in. The butler left. Sue Wanning turned and glanced at the camera in the corner of the living room, part of the home security system. She knew someone was watching. Or rather, she suspected someone was watching. She quickly walked over to me, picked me up from the rocker, and handed me to the nanny beside her. Take Nianin back to the nursery. The nanny took me and left. But as we reached the staircase, I saw him. A middle-aged man walked in from the entrance. Not tall, slightly chubby, wearing a gray jacket, very ordinary. The kind of ordinary that wouldn't catch a second glance in a crowd. But the moment he saw Sue Wanning, his eyes lit up. It was that kind of light, the kind that shouldn't exist, filled with possessiveness, nostalgia, and an intimacy that said, we share a secret. Sue Wanning's face was taut like a mask. Mr. Chin, long time no see. Wanning, call me Mrs. Gu. Her voice carried a barely controlled tremor. The nanny carried me upstairs. I couldn't see what happened next, but I could guess. This was Gu Yinzhou's doing. He had Chen Guoyang come, not by coincidence, not by accident, but on purpose. He was pressuring Sue Wanning, forcing her to react, forcing her to show her hand, and also forcing Chen Guoyang to show his. 2 rats, thrown into the same cage, and the rat keeper sat in the monitoring room, magnifying glass in hand. Back in the nursery, the nanny put me down and went about her business. The room was quiet. I stared at the ceiling and thought, my dad's move was too ruthless. Not criticizing him. I'm impressed. genuinely impressed. No shouting, no fighting, no scolding, just silently placing every chess piece in position. Su Wanning must be panicking now. Chen Guoyang suddenly appearing. What does that mean? She'll wonder. Did Chen Guoyang come on his own? Or was he arranged? If he was arranged, who arranged him? Was it Gu Yanzhou? Does he already know? How much does he know? Did he run the DNA test? Was the necklace thing a coincidence or intentional? These doubts will gnaw at her nerves like worms. And Gu Yanzhou says nothing, explains nothing, just lets her guess. Let her fear. Let her fall apart. That's 10,000 times more terrifying than a direct confrontation. Because a known enemy isn't scary. It's the unknown extent that's terrifying. Not knowing how much he knows, that itself is the strongest weapon. About an hour later, Gu Yanzhou came to the nursery. When he pushed the door open, there was a faint smile on his face. He seemed in a good mood. He walked to my crib and looked down at me. I hesitated. Then I dropped my guard. Anyway, he already knew I could think. Hiding and pretending would just be exhausting. Did you deliberately send Chen Guoyang here? He didn't speak. Just the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You want to force my mom to confess on her own? He sat in the chair, crossing his legs. What do you think? I think you're pretty ruthless, ma'am, but also pretty handsome. He finally smiled. A real smile. Not that fake social smile from the business world, but a genuine one, tinged with a hint of pride. You're my own son, he said. Those words, for some reason, warmed my heart. Even though I'm a soul in my 30s, even though we don't share a real father-son bond. But I could feel the weight behind those words. What he meant wasn't just your DNA is mine. It was, in this house full of fakes, you're the only real one. I looked at him. He looked at me. A moment of silence. Then he stood up and patted my little blanket. Don't worry about what comes next. He walked to the door and glanced back at me. But if you think of anything else, he smiled. Don't sing. Just think it. The door closed. I was stunned for a long moment. Then I cursed in my head. So all 300 nursery rhymes I sang this month were for nothing? A low chuckle came from afar. He hadn't gone far. Me? Oh, forget it. From today on, I officially accept my identity as an intelligence machine. No more pretending. Not that I could keep it up anyway. So I'll just be a good little informant. My dad wants to clean house. I'll help him. Even though I can't do much. But at least I can provide information. Precise, detailed information from who knows where. As for why this information appears in a baby's mind, I don't know. He probably doesn't want to dig too deep either. We've reached an unspoken understanding. Don't ask the source. Just look at the results. This is probably what it means to be father and son. The storm came faster than I expected. It happened just 5 days after Chen Guoyang's visit. During dinner, the Gu family was rarely all together. Su Wanning, Gu Qingyuan, Gu Chengze, Gu Qingxian, and me. I was held by the nanny and seated in my special baby dining chair. Although I didn't eat anything, Gu Yanzhou insisted I participate in the family dinner. He called it cultivating a sense of involvement. I think he just wanted me there as a human recording device. The atmosphere at the table was normal. Su Wanning was serving food. Gu Chengze got scolded for playing on his phone, and Gu Qingxian was fighting with his brother over the last piece of spare rib. Gu Qingyuan ate quietly, occasionally chatting with Gu Yanzhou about company matters. Peaceful and harmonious. Then Gu Yanzhou put down his chopsticks. He picked up the napkin on the table and wiped his mouth unhurriedly. I called you all back today because there's something I need to say. The table fell silent. Everyone looked up at him. Su Wanning's chopsticks, holding food, froze midair. The company is conducting a comprehensive asset audit recently, Gu Yanzhou said calmly, as if commenting on the nice weather tomorrow. It involves some issues with family trusts and insurance beneficiaries. So I need the 3 of you to cooperate with identity verification. He looked at his 3 sons, including DNA collection. The air froze. Sue Wanning's chopsticks dropped. Clink. Very soft. But in the silent dining room, it sounded like a thunderclap. DNA? Gu Qingyuan frowned. Dad, is this necessary? Legal department's request. Gu Yinzhou picked up his teacup and took a sip. Just a routine procedure. What procedure requires DNA? Gu Qingze also looked up, abandoning his phone. Changing trust beneficiaries requires confirming direct blood relations, Gu Yinzhou said. New regulations demand it. This reason, to be honest, it wasn't far-fetched. But it wasn't flawless either. Gu Qingyuan thought for a moment and didn't argue further. All right, when? Someone will come to collect samples tomorrow. It's simple. Just a cotton swab. Okay? Gu Qingyuan showed no tension. Because he didn't know. He had no idea he wasn't Gu Yinzhou's biological son. Sue Wanning knew. But she had never told him. That was the cruelest part. She had let these 3 children live in the beautiful dream of my dad as the richest man for 16, 19, and 22 years. Now the dream was about to shatter. And the one shattering, it wasn't Gu Yinzhou. It was her. I looked at Sue Wanning. Her face had turned pale, devoid of color. She didn't even pick up the fallen chopsticks. She just sat there, staring blankly at the table. Wanning, Gu Yinzhou called her. She jerked her head up. Huh? Your chopsticks fell. Oh. She bent down to pick them up, her hands trembling noticeably. Gu Qingyuan noticed. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. Sue Wanning forced a smile. Maybe a bit of low blood sugar. Why don't you rest early? I'll have someone make you some red day porridge. Gu Qingyuan stood up. Nu Niji. Mom, you really look terrible. Go rest. Gu Qingxian chimed in. Sue Wanning was surrounded by the concern of her 3 sons. She opened her mouth, her eyes reddening. All right, then Mom will go upstairs first. She stood up, her legs a bit weak. She steadied herself by holding the back of the chair before taking a step. As she passed Gu Yinzhou, she paused for a moment. Her lips moved, as if she wanted to say something. But Gu Yinzhou didn't look at her. He was fiddling with a small wind chime on my rocking chair, one gentle tug at a time, very patiently. Sue Wanning left. The sound of her footsteps upstairs was hurried, almost running. Gu Qingyuan glanced at her retreating figure and frowned. What's wrong with Mom lately? She's been in a bad state. Postpartum recovery period. It's normal. Gu Yinzhou said. His tone was casual. Gu Qingyuan nodded and didn't ask further. He continued eating. I sat in the high chair, quietly acting as a mascot, but my mind was racing. Sue Wanning was definitely scheming right now. DNA test tomorrow. She only had one night. What would she do? Stop it? Find an excuse to delay? Or run? I didn't think she would run. She couldn't. All her assets, connections, and status were tied to the identity of Mrs. Gu. If she ran, she'd have nothing. So she only had one path: deal with Qingguang, shut him up, or make him disappear. Or another approach, make the DNA test results go wrong. I didn't know which she'd choose, but I knew. No matter which, Gu Yinzhou was already prepared. He was waiting for her to make a move. Once she moved, she'd reveal more flaws, more evidence, more leverage. This was an open scheme. My father was playing an open scheme. I'm doing the DNA test. You figure it out. What could Sue Wanning do? No matter what she did, it was wrong. Cooperate, death. Not cooperate, even worse, death. Pull any tricks, the evidence chain would be complete. And she'd die faster and more thoroughly. I almost admired my father's mental fortitude. Sitting across from 3 children who weren't his own, he could still smile, eat, chat, and serve food. If it were me, I'd have flipped the table long ago. After dinner, Gu Yinzhou carried me back to the nursery. This time, he didn't sit down. He just stood by the window, holding me as he looked out at the yard. The moonlight was beautiful. The garden lights were on, warm yellow. shining on the neatly trimmed bushes. She'll make a call tonight, he suddenly said. I was startled. To Chingwing. He looked down at me. Do you know what she'll say? I thought about it. Tell him to run, or have him fake the results in advance. Guangzhou shook his head. She'll tell him to disappear. I was shocked. Not literally kill him. He added. She'll tell him to cut all ties, delete all records, and act like he never knew her. And then she'll go find Su Jiangwo. That bald guy. The corner of his mouth twitched. Yeah, that bald guy. What does she want from Su Jiangwo? To bribe the testing agency. I fell silent. This woman. Her methods were indeed extraordinary. In one night, she had to silence someone and bribe someone else. Highly efficient. But what she didn't know was Chang Guoyang's phone was already tapped. Su Jiangwo had been summoned for questioning 3 days ago. The testing agency was a lab under Gu Yinzhou's own medical group. Every path she could take had already been blocked. She just didn't know it yet. I looked at my father's calm face. I thought, if this man were in my past life, he'd at least be the male lead of a top-tier business war drama. Too bad he was in reality. In reality, business wars had no BGM, no slow-motion shots, only cold, hard documents, and one crushed person after another. Are you scared? He suddenly asked me. Scared of what? Of your mother. I thought about it. No, I'm not close to her. He was taken aback. Then he laughed. A laugh that came from genuine amusement. Right, he said. You're only a month old. He placed me back in the crib and tucked me in. Sleep. There's a good show tomorrow. He left. I closed my eyes. A good show. Tomorrow. DNA collection day. I had a feeling tomorrow this household would shake, and the epicenter would be right under Su Wanning's feet. Sure enough, at 2 a.m, I was woken by footsteps. Light, hurried footsteps. It came from the direction of the master bedroom, passed through the hallway, and went downstairs. It was Su Wanning. She was on the phone. Her voice was extremely low, but I still caught fragments. You must leave this city tomorrow. Don't contact me again. Don't say anything. You've ruined my life. Do you even know that? Then came the sound of hanging up. After that, another number was dialed. Jiangwo, I'm begging you to do me a favor. About the test report. Do you know anyone? I'll pay whatever it takes. These 2 phone calls. Every single word was recorded. I knew. Because Gu Yinzhou had said she will make a call tonight. He wasn't predicting. He was waiting. Waiting for her to hand over the evidence herself. I lay in the darkness. Suddenly, I felt a chill. Not the cold of temperature. It was that kind of chill, the one you feel when you watch someone walk themselves into their own grave. Su Wanning, every move you make, is in the palm of his hand. You just don't know it yet. The next morning at 10 o'clock, the testing personnel arrived on time. 3 people in white coats, carrying professional collection kits, were let in by the butler. Gu Qingyuan was the first to finish. The swab rubbed against the inside of his mouth a few times, then bagged, sealed, and signed. Gu Qingzhe was second, still muttering, is this really necessary? Making it so formal. Gu Qingxian was third, looking completely indifferent. The whole process took less than 10 minutes. None of the 3 showed any unusual reactions, because they knew nothing. Su Wanning stood in the corner of the living room the entire time, her hands clasped in front of her abdomen. Her makeup was exquisite, her clothes perfectly appropriate. But her gaze was like someone standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into an abyss. When the collection staff left, they nodded to her in greeting, and she forced out a smile. That smile lasted less than 2 seconds before it crumbled. Because of the call she had made to Su Jiangwo last night, Su Jiangwo didn't answer. He didn't answer all night. She called 11 times. All unanswered. What she didn't know was Su Jiangwo's phone had been taken away yesterday afternoon. Gu Yinzhou's people were a full 12 hours ahead of her. Noon. Su Wanning finally couldn't sit still anymore. She found Gu Yinzhou's study and knocked on the door. I was napping in the lounge next to the study at the time, napping in name only. Really, my eyes were closed, but my ears were wide open. Yinzhou. She pushed the door open. Her voice controlled and steady, but her speech was twice as fast as usual. What's wrong? That DNA test. Couldn't the results come out a few days later? I think the kids are a bit nervous. Nervous about what? It doesn't hurt. No, I mean, the results will be out in 3 days. Legal is pushing for it, but wanting. Gu Yinzhou's voice leveled out. Do you have some concerns? Silence. A long silence. No, she finally said. No concerns. Good. She came out. Footsteps passed by the lounge from the study door. Through the half-open door crack, I caught a glimpse of her profile. On that exquisite face, all the composure and elegance had shattered, replaced by an expression I had only seen in courtroom documentaries in my past life, the despair of knowing the verdict is coming, but being powerless to change it. She walked past, high heels clicking on the marble floor. Click, click, farther and farther, faster and faster. Then stopped. She turned back, not to the study, upstairs, to the master bedroom. I closed my eyes. Only one image in my mind. Trap beast, pacing in circles in its cage. Every escape route sealed off. All she could do was wait. Wait for those 3 days to pass. Wait for the results to come out. Wait for Gu Yinzhou to slap that piece of paper on the table. Wait for the world to collapse. 3 days later, 4 in the afternoon, I was in the rocking chair in the living room. The maternity nurse was knitting beside me. Peaceful times. Then Gu Yinzhou's car came back. 2 hours earlier than usual. He walked in holding his briefcase. His expression was as normal as ever. Old Chin, call everyone to the dining room tonight. The butler acknowledged. Everyone must be there. He added. The butler nodded and left. Gu Yinzhou passed by me and glanced down. I looked at him. He gave me a slight nod. That gesture was very subtle, but I understood it. It meant the time has come. 7 in the evening. The dining room. Gu Qingyuan, Gu Chengze, Gu Qingxian, Su Wanning, and me. Everyone present. Dinner was a table full of fine dishes, matsutake soup, Australian lobster, wagyu, black truffle, but no one had the appetite to eat. Because as soon as Gu Yinzhou entered the dining room, he placed a document right in the center of the table. An unopened craft paper envelope, printed with the logo of Dingxin Genetic Testing Center. Everyone saw it. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Su Wanning's hand gripped the armrest of the chair, her knuckles turning white. Gu Qingyuan glanced at the envelope, then at his father. Is this the one from a few days ago? Yes. Gu Yinzhou sat down, picked up his chopsticks, and said, Let's eat first. No one moved to pick up their chopsticks. Dad, just say it directly. Gu Qingyuan put down his chopsticks. What's the result? Gu Yinzhou looked at him. His gaze was calm. It was like looking at a stranger. Are you sure you want to know now? Gu Qingyuan froze for a moment. What do you mean? Gu Yinzhou didn't answer him. He turned to look at Su Wanning. Wanning, do you want to speak first? Su Wanning's body stiffened. Speak. About what? About what you want to say. Gu Yinzhou's tone was extremely gentle. Gentle like coaxing a child who had made a mistake to confess. Before I open this envelope, is there anything you want to tell the kids? The entire dining room fell into a deathly silence. Gu Chengze and Gu Qingxian exchanged glances, their faces full of confusion. Gu Qingyuan furrowed his brows, his gaze darting back and forth between his parents. Su Wanning sat there. Her lips were trembling. Her eyes were reddening. But she didn't speak. 1 second. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Silence. Gu Yinzhou waited long enough for her. Then he nodded. All right. He picked up the envelope, opened it, pulled out the reports. 3 in total. He placed the first one in front of Gu Qingyuan. Gu Qingyuan and Gu Yinzhou, familial relationship excluded. Gu Qingyuan's pupils suddenly contracted. The second one, placed in front of Gu Chengze. Gu Qingze and Gu Yinzhou, familial relationship excluded. The chopsticks in Gu Qingze's hand dropped. The third one, placed in front of Gu Qingxian. Gu Qingxian and Gu Yinzhou, familial relationship excluded. The 16-year-old boy stood there stunned, staring at the words on the paper as if reading a completely foreign language. Then the three of them looked up at the same time, towards Su Wanning. Su Wanning closed her eyes. 2 streams of tears slid down, but she didn't say a single word. The dining room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Tick, tock, tick. Then Gu Qingyuan suddenly stood up, his chair tipping backward and crashing onto the floor. What does this mean? His voice was trembling, not from fear. It was the trembling of an entire worldview being torn apart. Dad, he looked at Gu Yinzhou. Is this a mistake? There's an error in the test, right? Gu Yinzhou looked at him, didn't speak. In that gaze, there was no warmth left at all. Mom. Gu Qingyuan turned to Su Wanning, almost shouting, say something. Su Wanning opened her eyes. Her face was covered in tears. She opened her mouth, her voice hoarse and barely audible. Qingyuan, I'm sorry. 3 words. Light as a feather. But they landed on the table like a bomb. Gu Qingyuan's face went from red to white, then from white to gray. He took a step back, then another step back. He bumped into the fallen chair, stumbled slightly. Gu Qingze was already frozen, his mouth half open, as if someone had pressed the pause button. Gu Qingxian, the 16-year-old child, his eyes instantly reddened, but he bit his lip hard, not letting out a single sob. I lay on the rocking chair, watching all of this. This was a battlefield, a true battlefield, not a quarrel, not a fight. It was the moment a family's foundation was uprooted. Gu Yinzhou sat at the head of the table, the food in front of him untouched. He picked up his teacup, took a sip of water, then set the cup down, stood up. This meal, I can't eat anymore. He straightened his cuffs. Tomorrow, the lawyer will come. You all can go confirm your relationship with your biological fathers. He paused. The Gu family's assets, I will take back. With that, he turned and walked away. His steps were steady. His back was straight, without a trace of hesitation. Only Su Wanning's sobs remained in the dining room, along with the ragged breaths of the 3 sons. My nanny quickly came over, picked me up, and headed out. As I was leaving, I turned back for a look. Gu Qingyuan was slumped on the floor. Gu Qingze was pounding the table. Gu Qingxian was in tears. Su Wanning buried her face in her hands, her shoulders trembling violently. Her once delicate makeup was ruined. Tears mixed with foundation, streaming down in streaks. It was a mess. It was pitiful. But I couldn't muster much sympathy in my heart, because she had brought this all upon herself. When she made her choice over 20 years ago, she should have known this day would come. She just thought no one would ever find out. But there are no walls that don't let the wind through, especially when inside those walls lives a baby who can hear people's thoughts. I was carried back to the nursery. The nanny closed the door, shutting out the world beyond. But the sounds of crying, arguing, and things being smashed, they didn't stop all night. This family, from tonight onward, would never be the same. In the days that followed, the Gu family home turned into an icebox. Su Wanning moved out of the master bedroom. No one forced her to leave. She left on her own. She moved into a guest room on the 3rd floor and kept the door shut all day long. She stopped coming out for meals. The servants would bring food to her door, wait for a long time, and then take it back, barely touched. The 3 brothers each reacted in their own way. Gu Qingyuan was the first to break, and the first to turn cold. After a night of raging fury, he made an appointment with a lawyer the very next morning. Not to help Su Wanning, but to help himself. He wanted to confirm who his biological father really was. He wanted to confirm whether he still had inheritance rights to the Gu family fortune. The answer, of course, was no. He knew that very well. But he needed an official, black and white conclusion to convince himself. Gu Qingze went to the other extreme. He started drinking himself into a stupor. For 3 consecutive days, he stayed out at bars, getting so drunk he had to be carried home. A 19-year-old kid, his eyes bloodshot, Gu Qingxian was the quietest of them all. He didn't cause a scene, didn't cry, didn't drink. He just stopped talking. He stopped going to school, staying alone in his room, the curtains drawn, the lights off. He would sit there for an entire day. I felt like this kid might need psychological counseling, but no one had the time for him. This family was already in complete chaos. The only one who wasn't in chaos was Gu Yinzhou. He went to work as usual every day, came home as usual, came to see me as usual, as if nothing had happened. He just stopped eating in the dining room. He ate in his study, alone. One night, he held me as we sat on the balcony, looking out at the night scenery in the courtyard. He was silent for a long time. Then he suddenly asked me, "Tell me, am I too ruthless?" I didn't expect him to ask that. I was stunned for a moment. Then I thought about it seriously. Not ruthless. If I were you, I might have struck right then and there. The fact that you've held back until now is already very restrained. He let out a laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was that kind of bitter, helpless smile. 23 years, he said. I gave her the best of everything. She lacked nothing. I didn't respond, but she still chose betrayal. He looked down at me. Do you know what hurts me the most? What? It's not that she cheated. His voice was very soft. It's those 3 children. I really raised them for over 20 years. When Qingyuan was little and had a fever of 40 degrees, I carried him alone in the hospital corridor all night. When Chengze was bullied by classmates, I personally went to the school to talk to that kid's parents. Chengyan. When Chengxian was 3 years old and called me, "Dad," for the first time, I was happy for an entire day. He paused. I saw his eyes. They were rimmed with red. But there were no tears. This man, who could build a business empire, lay out strategies and close the net, calmly push betrayers into the abyss when talking about this. He couldn't hold it together anymore. It wasn't hatred. It was pain. The pain of realizing that all the genuine feelings he had poured out were for nothing. Only one thought crossed my mind. Dad, you still have me. I'm real. He paused. Then he lowered his head, gently touching his forehead to mine. He didn't say anything, but I knew he heard me. Another week passed. The lawyers came. Not just one, but a whole team. 6 people. All in black suits, carrying black briefcases, walking into the Gu family home like a funeral procession. Su Wanning was invited to the reception room on the first floor. It was the first time she had come downstairs since moving into the guest room. She had lost a lot of weight. Her once delicate face now had nasolabial folds. Her eyes were sunken. Her hair was simply tied back in a ponytail. The old her would never have appeared in front of others like this. She sat on the sofa, facing 6 lawyers across from her. Gu Yinzhou sat in a single armchair nearby, legs crossed, expressionless. I was in the butler's arms, placed in a baby chair in the corner. Gu Yinzhou made me stay. His reason was, children can't be without their parents. But honestly, I think he just wanted me to watch. The head of the legal team opened the folder and cleared his throat. Ms. Su Wanning, the following are the divorce agreement terms proposed by Mr. Gu. Please take a look. Su Wanning's hand reached for the document, but after reading just 2 lines, she began to tremble. First, both parties agree to dissolve the marriage. Second, regarding the children born during the marriage, DNA testing has confirmed that Gu Qingyuan, Gu Chengze, and Gu Chengxian have no biological relationship with Mr. Gu Yinzhou. According to relevant laws, the 3 children are not entitled to inheritance rights from the Gu family trust. Third, Ms. Su Wanning's marital infidelity has been proven with solid evidence. According to Article 7 of the prenuptial agreement, if one party commits a major fault, the innocent party has the right to demand that the at-fault party leave the marriage with nothing. Fourth and enough. Su Wanning slammed the document onto the table. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. Guyenjo, is this how you treat me? Guyenjo looked at her. How do you think I should treat you? 23 years. I've given everything to this family. You gave this family 3 children that belonged to other men. His voice was low, but every word was like a nail. From start to finish. The only thing you ever did for me was lie. Su Wanning's lips trembled twice. I had my reasons. Reasons? Guyenjo finally smiled. Your ex-boyfriend was a reason. The driver was a reason. The butler was a reason, too. He listed 3 names in a row. With each name, Su Wanning's face grew paler. Your reasons were just using me as your fool for 23 years. The room was dead silent. The legal team kept their heads down, reading the documents, not daring to interject a single word. Su Wanning closed her eyes, tears streaming silently. She was quiet for a long time. Then she opened her eyes, her voice hoarse but eerily calm. I won't sign. Guyenjo raised an eyebrow. I won't leave with nothing, she said. If you want a divorce, fine. But I want my share. Your share? I've been with you for 23 years. She looked him straight in the eye. In those 23 years, your company grew from 100 million to 100 billion. I managed the household, entertained guests, gave birth, handled everything, even if I made mistakes. My contributions aren't zero. Guyenjo looked at her quietly. He didn't speak. The law says that even the at-fault party has the right to a portion of the shared property. Su Wanning's voice grew steadier. You're a prenuptial agreement. I've read it. There are loopholes. When the contract was drafted, the definition of major fault was vague. If we go to court, you might not win cleanly. I watched from the corner, thinking this woman, even at this point, she was still calculating, still strategizing, still looking for an escape route. I had to admit, she was ruthless. But what she didn't know was Guyenjo had already re-audited that prenuptial agreement a month ago. The loopholes had been patched. The chain of evidence was complete enough to hold a press conference, including the recordings of her calls with Chen Guoyang, including the recordings of her calls with Su Jiangwo, including the list of business benefits Su Jiangwo had gained through her over the past 20 years, including the recording of Chen Guoyang bragging while drunk, a recording Su Jiangwo had kept for 20 years. Yes, Su Jiangwo handed over that recording, not voluntarily. Gu Yenzhou traded it for evidence of illegal construction on 3 plots of land under Su Jiangwo's name. Everyone has a weakness. Everyone has a price. Gu Yenzhou just found the right price. Wanting. He spoke. Do you know why I had the lawyers come today instead of filing a lawsuit directly? Su Wanning looked at him. Because I'm giving you one last chance to leave with dignity. He stood up, walked over to her, towering over her. Sign. Take your dowry and premarital assets. Leave cleanly. If you don't sign, he bent down, his voice so soft it was almost a whisper. I'll let the whole world know what you did. Every detail. Every recording. Including the evidence of you trying to bribe the testing agency. Su Wanning's pupils contracted. Then it won't just be about leaving with nothing. He straightened up. It'll be about suspected falsification of paternity tests and commercial bribery. Those 2 charges alone are enough to put you away for years. The air in the room turned freezing cold. Su Wanning looked at him. The man she had shared a bed with for 23 years. In her eyes at this moment, he was as unfamiliar as a different species. Her lips moved. She wanted to say something. But in the end, nothing came out. She lowered her head, reached for the pen on the table, flipped to the last page, signed her name. Her hand was trembling, but the strokes landed steadily on the white paper. After signing, she gently placed the pen back on the table, stood up, without a word, turned and walked toward the door. As she passed me, she paused for a moment, looked down at me. I saw her eyes, red and swollen, hollow, all light extinguished. She opened her mouth, Nianen. She only called my name. Then she left. The sound of her high heels faded step by step. Upstairs. Into the room. The door closed. She never came down again. 3 days later, she moved out. A black business van came to pick her up. Took away 2 suitcases. No one saw her off. No one said goodbye. The 3 brothers also left one by one that week. Gu Qingyuan left most decisively. Booking a flight to London the same day he signed the agreement. He turned back at the door to look at Gu Yinzhou. His lips moved. In the end, he only said, "Thank you." For all these years, Gu Yinzhou stood at the door and nodded. "Take care." Gu Qingyuan turned and got into the car. Never looking back, Gu Qingzhou was picked up by his biological father, the former driver. He cried as he got into the car. Not for Gu Yinzhou, nor for Su Wanning. He cried for his own 19 years of life lived in the dark. Gu Qingxian was the last to leave. His mother Su Wanning called and told him to go with her. But he hesitated for a long time. Standing at the door, he looked back at Gu Yinzhou. "Dad," he called out, then corrected himself. Mr. Gu." His voice trembled. The 16-year-old boy's eyes were red. "Can I come back to see Nianin in the future?" Gu Yinzhou was silent for 2 seconds. "Yes." Gu Qingxian nodded firmly, turned, and quickly got into the car. The door closed. The car drove away. The gate of the Gu family mansion slowly shut. In the vast house, only Gu Yinzhou, me, the butler, and a few servants remained. Utterly quiet. Gu Yinzhou walked to the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room and stood there for a long time. The setting sun cast its light on him. His shadow stretched long. In the arms of the nanny, I watched his back from afar. Only one thought crossed my mind. "Dad, from now on, it's just the 2 of us in this house." He turned his head, looked at me. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Them sounded like a response, and also like a promise. From today onward, in this house, only the real remains. The story should have ended here. But in life, there is no such thing as the end. It's merely one chapter closing and another beginning. 3 months after Su Wanning left, I was 4 months old. I could roll over. Every day after work, Gu Yinzhou's first stop was the nursery to see me. Sometimes he'd carry me around for a stroll. Other times he'd just sit and watch me play. That day, he came as usual. He sat down. He watched me. I was busy gnawing on my own foot. Don't laugh. That's what 4-month-olds do. "Nianin," he called. I looked up. He pulled out his phone, tapped open a news alert, and held it in front of me. The headline read, "Former First Lady Su Wanning exposed for marital infidelity? Gu family response." Pure fabrication. I glanced at it, then at him. "Didn't you say you wouldn't make it public?" "Who leaked this?" "Not me," he said, putting the phone away. It was Su Jiangwo. I froze. Is he insane? Didn't he give you the recording? How dare he? He sold another copy of the recording to the media. Gu Yinzhou said flatly. He kept a backup. I fell silent. That slippery old eel. Su Jiangwo. On one hand, he sold Qin Guoyang's recording to Gu Yinzhou to save his own skin. On the other, he sold the recording of Su Wanning's call to a tabloid for cash. Playing both sides. What do we do? It's already handled, Gu Yinzhou said. Standing up, Gu Corporation's legal team issued a statement calling it malicious defamation. The media has pulled it too. He brushed imaginary dust off his pants. As for Su Jiangwo's land, demolition starts tomorrow. 20 years of illegal construction. Time to tear it down. Fair enough. That's how my father handled things. No fuss. No drama. Just cutting the problem off at the root. You sold my information? Fine. Then say goodbye to your lifeline. Su Jiangwo thought he was clever, but he had no idea who he was messing with. This was a man who could endure 23 years of being cuckolded, waiting until his plan was airtight before making a move. What did a little fish like Su Jiangwo think he could stir up? A week later, I heard Su Jiangwo's company had been audited 4 times in a row. The Tax Bureau, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Housing and Construction Commission, the Market Regulator, all of them showed up. It wasn't Gu Yinzhou's doing. It was Su Wanning. Before she left, she had also kept a backup compiling a list of the illegal benefits Su Jiangwo had obtained through her over the years, and anonymously reporting it. That woman, even on her way out, she had to drag someone down with her. Su Jiangwo had pleased neither side. Gu Yanzhou took his land. Su Wanning reported his company. Both of his lifelines were severed. A phrase popped into my head. This is what happens when you play both sides. You end up pleasing no one. Gu Yanzhou, who was changing clothes nearby, paused at my words. Then he let out a soft chuckle. You're 4 months old. Where did you learn that? 32 years of life's hard lessons from my past life taught me. He didn't press further. That was our unspoken understanding. He never asked why I knew these things, and I never offered an explanation. In his eyes, I was probably some kind of gifted child, able to hear things I shouldn't, able to think things I shouldn't. As for why, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was his own flesh and blood, his only one. Real. That was enough. 6 months later, I could sit up. I could mumble, of course. I practiced deliberately to fit the role. The first time Gu Yanzhou heard me say dada, he was in his study reviewing documents. His pen stopped for 3 seconds. Then he put down the file, walked over, and scooped me out of my baby walker. He lifted me high. The billionaire tycoon spun his own sun around in the study. The sunset that day was especially beautiful. Golden light poured in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The smile on his face, it was the cleanest smile I had ever seen. No scheming, no guard, no shadow of betrayal. He was just a father who had finally held his own flesh and blood. Simple, pure joy. I was in his arms, laughing so hard I drooled. In my heart, I thought, old Gu, you deserve this. He looked down at me, flicked my nose. Call me Dad. Dad, say it again. Daddy. He held me a little tighter. The sunset outside the window was just right. This home wasn't big, but it was warm enough.